Dear viewers and panelists, welcome to our session on Ukraine. We have included this special session in reaction to Russia's aggression in Ukraine and also in solidarity with the Ukrainian resistance efforts to this assault, both on the Ukrainian sovereignty, on lives and livelihoods, but as well as on European values and more broadly on the international rules-based order. And I would like to extend a particular thanks to our Ukrainian experts and opinion leaders who could join us today despite these strenuous times. In this session, we will seek their first-hand analysis of the situation, as well as hear the key priorities for support to Ukraine more broadly. But we're also looking to highlight more specifically the role of expat experts and media platforms in spreading information, fighting disinformation, as well as rallying support for Ukraine. So wartime is an exceptionally tragic context for this, but it also has very clearly showed the important contribution of these diaspora players. We can reflect on how has their mission and role changed comparing to peacetime, how do they contribute, what are the challenges and needs that they face, and what kind of partnerships and tools would help fulfill their function. These are just some of the more perhaps academic questions, but we shall also not lose sight of the immediate needs to stop the aggression in Ukraine, which is a gruesome backdrop for our discussions. I would like to first introduce our first speaker, Dr. Olena Carbou. She is the executive director of the Ukrainian think tank LIAISON office in Brussels. Olena is an experienced professional in the area of democratic transformation and human rights, a researcher and an author with a strong academic background. And for the past 8 years, the Ukrainian think tank LIAISON office in Brussels has been representing Ukrainian think tanks, research institutes and networks in Brussels, providing reliable information and policy positions regarding Ukraine and strengthening the links between the EU and Ukraine. All this work is both now at risk, but more important than ever as well, as the professional analysis is essential for saving lives, the Ukrainian statehood and democratic institutions. So I would like to now give the floor to Dr. Olena Carbou for her analysis and some insights on the best way forward. Please, Olena, the floor is yours.
Thank you, ELÍNA. Thank you, all participants. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for providing yet another platform to bring the voice of the Ukrainian civil society and the Ukrainians as such. And I would start with a personal story. A few days ago, a friend of mine, she went to be registered to this special status, and she told me that she burst out of crying when she came there, when she saw how well everything has been prepared for them and how welcome they have been to propose the help. So with this, I again would like to thank everyone present as citizens of your countries for proposing this unprecedented support for the Ukrainians who had to flee the country. And actually they transforming this migration crisis into the action of solidarity, an action of standing by the values, standing by the Ukrainians. So this is on the positive note. I'm afraid that my further speech would not be so positive, and for some of you may sound alarmist, but I believe that this is my duty, this is the duty of Ukrainians who are actually now in the front line and actually facing the existential questions and death or life. This is our duty to tell you what we feel, what we sense, where it goes to and where it comes from. And my main logo today, my main leitmotif today would be focus on the main cause of the situation. So here I would start with actually how we see the war. what we are dealing with. It is important to understand because this is the basis for our analysis and it's the basis for calibrating our actions. So what we are dealing with, what targets Putin is trying to pursue here. And I would say here are two dimensions. So first, yes, indeed, restoration of the USSR. And inside of this target, elimination of the Ukrainian nation as such is one of the components of this target, especially as he stated that Ukraine is not a nation in his program article. And now we see by this shelling of Ukrainian cities and bombing and killing civilians, this is actually just practically, if you want, implementation of what he has written in this loosey article. And in this sense, Ukraine is a direct target, and for Ukrainians, it is an essential war for survival and for the nation presence. Number two dimension, it's actually the target of Putin and actually Russia as it's such. It's destruction of the system of the free world, which contradicts the totalitarian fascist nature of the Russian regime. And in this sense, the whole free world is a target. And its elimination, it's not less important for Putin as elimination of Ukraine, because the Russian regime cannot coexist with the free world. And this bearing in mind, it brings us, this second point indicates that not only Ukraine is a target and that no one should feel safe. And if we look at this war, we need to see this war in this broader paradigm. And this brings us to understanding that defending Ukraine is defending the free world as such. And failure of Ukraine or concluding any compromising or unfavorable peace condition, peace agreement would mean only one thing, would mean failure for the free world and invitation to extension of this war, including to the territories of the EU or NATO allies. So no one should feel safe, and at least in the European continent, or thinking that the war would never touch upon your own country. Unfortunately, this understanding is still lacking in Europe. The war against Ukraine has become the earthquake for the European and for people of the free world. But unfortunately, the understanding of this meaning, what it means, what it may mean to your own country is still lacking. And I believe this is our duty as Ukrainians to tell you this, to appeal to you, no matter how alarmist or no matter how unrealistic it may sound to you, by meaning by European countries, that we tell to take this seriously. And by the way, the fact that the Russian army appeared to be so weak should not relax us at all, because unfortunately, the weakness of the Russian army is largely compensated with their readiness to do outrageous acts and war crimes, which they are already demonstrate in Ukraine by bombing civilians, by killing civilians, by attacking nuclear facilities or taking them over there or control, putting all of us in danger. Besides, Putin himself, he simply cannot stop because he is a war criminal. He knew what he has done and he cannot step back. So in order to win, actually, we need two things simultaneously. First, Russian military defeat in Ukraine, which will give the moral trigger for Russians to get rid of Putin because he didn't bring the victory to them. And number two, defeat of Russian economy as a basis for their military machine, which will give socio and economic trigger for the Russian society to change from inside. So all this brings me to the next point. How can we help Ukraine to win this war? and what kind of assistance Ukraine really needs now. And I would name 3 layers. First, assistance to end this war against Russia, which is the main course. The main course, of course, the Russian regime, but now we deal with this course of the war. Number 2, assistance to Ukrainians who had to leave Ukraine, and which is actually the consequence of the war. So by focusing on the main course, we will reduce the pressure on the second. So the less Ukrainians will have to leave the country. And number 3, what we need assistance. It's actually more of moral importance, but it's not less important as actual assistance. It's actually the given light in the end of the tunnel, meaning the quick response to the Ukrainian aspiration to become the member of the European Union. So this is the logical. And having all these types of assistance equally important, I would still underline that today we need to focus our efforts on tackling the cause of this problem to help Ukraine to win the war and to help Ukraine to resist, to renew our territorial integrity, and to be sure that this war will not continue. How you as citizens of European Union actually can help? Because I hear a lot that what can we do to address the main course in Ukraine and to stop the war. And my answer would be engage in possible ways with your political leaders at national, European, international level to convince them to be more decisive and quicker when it comes to help Ukraine to win the war. Engage also with each and every other partner and stakeholder who is participating in decision-making or decision distribution, media, all kind of NGOs, all kind of other stakeholders who can help to address us, the main cause of this problem. And the forms of engagement, you know better, we all know them. It's demonstrations, it's petitions, it's personal meetings, it's all kind of engagement to appeal and to bring this message that we all, it is in our hand to help Ukraine to win the war, to stop the war, and to stop this war from spreading around. And I have just prepared some messages, but I know that you know better. You may bring other and better slogans to your media campaign or to your engagement with the political leaders. But in my mind, in my head, I have several. For example, protect Ukraine as you were protecting your own country. Act now so that you are sure you will not have to act further, protecting actually your own country. And victory of Ukraine is our common victory. In terms of concrete help, what actually the political leaders can and should do. And here I will just transfer the appeal from the Ukrainian side, which is already widely heard, but I would just like to add my voice, our voice of the expert community into this request. And actually, first, when it comes to the actual help to win this war, we need to speed up and enforce the process of weaponizing Ukraine. And actually the appeal here is heavy weapons, air defense systems, aircrafts, creation of no-fly zone over Ukraine, or providing Ukraine with necessary means for Ukrainians to do it themselves. And here we already see some developments, and the Baltic states have supported creation of no-fly zone over Ukraine. The US recently has provided us essential means to do it by Ukrainians themselves. This and all other items before listed should be increased and should be quicker. And again, here I would like to underline, as much as European Union countries have helped Ukrainians who left country, to accommodate them, I would like to thank enormously to the whole help which Ukraine has already received and continues to receive to resist military on the ground against the Russian invasion. And I cannot thank this more. Thank you. Besides actually the direct military support, we need financial and material support, including fuels, medical equipments, and all other medicaments and all other things to help us to fight. Apart from the military, what other assistance is needed? Protect Ukrainian civilians inside of Ukraine. We believe that more engagement should be given to international and European community to involve and to increase pressure on Russia to stop acts of crime against civilians and to allow civilians to leave the cities and not to be on danger for their life. Then make sanctions against Russia complete. At the moment, sanctions against Russia, they are acting. We already see how badly the Russian economy is reacting, but it is still not in its full scale. And if we want to end the war as quick as possibly, we need to minimize the economic basis for this war as quick as possibly. And this is only possible if we make the sanctions complete, including embargo on oil and gas purchasing, which is the economic basis for this machine. And as citizens, we all can stop buy Russian products or anything connected to Russian, or to engage and to pressure the companies also to stop cooperation with Russia. As soon as it's possible, as soon this will happen, the more lives will be saved. And as I said already, is to speed up the membership prospect for the European Union for Ukraine. This is important. And here I appeal again, I would appeal to each and every of you to do utmost of his, her, or any other identity capacities to help us to win this war, to stop death. This is the primal goal for all of us today. We are not powerless. We are not living in the democracies, having political leaders, having opinion leaders accountable and responsible. We can influence them in order to help Ukraine and to appeal to them to act adequately to the needs of time. And here I come to the last point of how we Ukrainians can help you to help us. And I speak on behalf of the organization which I represent, the Ukrainian think tank's liaison office in Brussels. And here our main assistance is provision of true and professional analysis from Ukraine and on Ukraine. And here, when you appeal to your leaders, when you appeal to the media, we are here standing together with you to provide you necessary analysis, because all what we do in terms of advocacy, in terms of appealing, should be based on professional analysis. And we are here for this. Please engage with us directly, speak to us, demand, request information. We are here for this. It's also, following the demands of time, we have accumulated information about how you can help Ukraine from abroad. You can find it on our website and everywhere. And also, how can you actually help Ukrainian civil society and its expert community? Because we do believe that together with humanitarian needs, we also need to save brains of the nation, because we will need them when we need to restore the country after the winning of this war. Once again, I absolutely would like, from the bottom of my heart, I would like to thank European international community for the assistance which you are providing for Ukraine to stand against Russian invasion, and for the assistance which you are providing for Ukrainians who had to leave the countries. We believe that together we can stop this war. Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. Thank you.
Dear Olena, thank you very much for your strong and clear message to Europeans worldwide, acting each individually, but also collectively as part of active civil society in the European countries or worldwide where we live. As the second speaker for this special session on Ukraine, I'm honored to welcome Maryna Yaroshevych from a platform, Promote Ukraine. Promote Ukraine is an independent media and civil society platform that is giving voice to experts from Ukraine and the EU on issues of common interest, but it's a politically and governmentally independent organization with a seat in Brussels. And I have observed with admiration the dynamic work that you are now doing in the context of this war. And I would be honored to hear your presentation of your work, of the role and initiatives that your platform is carrying out, and to hear about needs and priorities in the current context and more generally in support of Ukraine. Please, Maryna, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mrs. Pinto. Everyone, even though it's already day 22nd since we dropped good from morning, from day, from evening, and night as well. As our President Zelensky says, now we can just say hello, because Ukrainian nation exists, and every day means casualties, means injuries, means loss of life. So by default now, this cannot be good until we stop this war. I would like to divide my presentation into 3 parts. So first, I will also put Ukraine on our mind map a little bit in the context. Secondly, I will present work of Promote Ukraine in peace times as opposed to war times, in which we find ourselves in now. And third, I will conclude with action points of what we see, of what we believe is necessary to be done to remedy the situation. So first of all, we see now, because we are talking about media and we are talking about diaspora, we are talking about experts living throughout Europe, that the outreach to our organization has very much shifted in the recent days towards refugees. Please help us to find a person that would explain what is his needs or her needs, whether she was received with hospitality and where is she staying, and so on and so forth. And when we get requests like this, our heart is aching for the following reason. Ukraine, even without, if we discount Crimea and Donbass, has an active population of 40 million citizens. 40 million citizens. It's a rough estimation just for the easiness of calculation. And so far, around 2 million people have fled our country. They are welcomed in the EU, the entity of 440 million people. And where media attention shifts is towards those 2 million people that have made it here. We obviously are compassionate vis-a-vis our own compatriots. don't get me wrong, and we very much feel the pain of each and every citizen that had to escape. And I'll tell you more that we do have a separate working group on this. But the sad reality is that 38 million people that are still in Ukraine are now overlooked. So we are talking like very, very big disbalance, and we are talking about very, kind of dramatic, let's say, disparity. Therefore, when we look at Ukraine and we look at the situation right now, our main plea is to actually look at those Ukrainians that are in Ukraine, both on individual level, family level, but also on higher levels. So our immediate need in everything that we're talking about should be on work, as Ms. Carbou mentioned, how to stop it right now and how to prevent even more people having to flee their homes and then look for temporary protection. People that are coming to the EU, who made it here at least, these are not kind of refugees in a typical sense of the word. These are people, well, predominantly mothers with children that had to be evacuated. And the first thing that we hear from them is that we don't even know whether we need to look for school or anything here, because our main goal and like our wish is to be back home as soon as we can, as the situation allows for it. So this is something that I wanted kind of to make clear from the very beginning. Rather than talking about integration and how to help the transition, we should still be talking about active war in Ukraine and its consequences in the immediate perspective. And once this short-term goal kind of is achieved, so the war is stopped by means that I will also be about later, then we could put things into context, into a bigger picture, and and deal with the problems as they come, but not right now. Now, my second section is about Promote Ukraine. So as ELÍNA, you presented in the very beginning, normally this is a civil society and media hub that works on advocating EU institutions, but also NATO and other international organizations, that has extensive media relations and so on and so forth. And since 24th February this year, the tasks and demands have gotten off the rooftop, because they not only doubled or tripled, I think they were multiplied by tens of times. Our regret is that in the 8 years that the organization exists and has been operational, we felt that we were knocking on the closed door. No matter how hard, me, my colleagues before me tried to explain that, we are dealing with Putin, who is an aggressor and who just cannot negotiate with. I think this message was fallen on a deaf ear, and this is why today we find ourselves in this dire situation. So there is a sense of guilt on our part that probably we did not do enough to convey the message the EU is dealing with, and so Europeans are waking up to the reality only now. But on the other hand, we are also slightly disappointed that not everyone is waking up and not everyone catches up with the reality. And we do still hear the narratives that what is needed to stop the war is just to stop shooting, right? And to sit at the negotiations table and kind of make a deal. We apologize, but this is not the case. So this is also something that well, you know, some work for civil society and media to avoid falling into this trap again, and into this mental, let's say, yeah, into this wrong kind of understanding and wrong approach that everything could be kind of settled and solved, and that some mild sanctions. Because no, in the 8 years, sanctions did not stop Putin, did not prevent him from launching full-scale invasion. So if we proceed with the let's say, solutions, they will not do either, and situation will only aggravate for the entire world. So as I mentioned, since day one, Ukrainian activists, expats, civil society has started kind of flowing not only kind of to the streets, but also like self-organizing itself in order to deliver the message, to amplify it here. And so on day 5, I will skip like all the details, but on day 5, here in Brussels, we managed to open coordination center on the basis of Promote Ukraine, but it extends much beyond our network and our membership. And the coordination center has 8 working groups. Some of them I already mentioned, like advocacy or manifestations or media relations, SMM and PR. But the others are a new, let's say, added working groups on humanitarian aid, on refugees, and then on fundraising and donations. Apart from coordination center, because we were making the requests and inquiries vis-a-vis different other institutions and organizations and businesses, we got a green light for opening a hotline, and it's going to be operational within the next couple of days. Yeah, for Ukrainians that found themselves outside Ukraine and need some sort of legal help or assistance. So this is how we also address the needs of those people who are outside. But again, here we have a different focus. That's why I put in the background, but this is probably not of so much relevance to the discussion with this hotline. What I really want to concentrate on is a third novelty, and this is a Ukrainian hub. A Ukrainian hub was opened yesterday in presence of President Metsola, President of the European Parliament. They've actually provided premises to the European Parliament, namely Station Europe, for Ukrainian activities. And so actually today in the morning, we've started its operation with what was also some technicalities. But for the moment, I'm here, and this was not planned, but I hope I can show you a little bit around. So now I'm physically on Place Lux in the premises of the Station Europe. So this is how it will look like. And why do I show it? And yeah, here behind probably you won't see much, but yeah, this is Place Lux, or Esplanade, rather say Esplanade, and Place Lux is behind me. So this is where Ukrainian civil society will now operate from. And this is what is probably relevant to you, those who are in Brussels, that you are more than welcome to reach out to us, to come here, to coordinate, to cooperate, and to have follow-up kind of initiatives in order to amplify the message. And now we come to my third part, because I have 2 minutes left of my presentation, that our advocacy work concentrates on 3 levels. So Ms. Carbou was talking about 3 layers, and I would talk about 3 also kind of dimensions of our advocacy work. So first is a, let's say, state level or international level, advocacy vis-a-vis European institutions, NATO, and particular member states. At the level of politicians, there I think the messages were already very well laid out or explained. So we do demand like no-fly zone, full ban of Russia from SWIFT and embargo on oil, gas, and coal, and things like that. Second level is a corporate level or organizational level, where we try to launch demands vis-a-vis, let's say, businesses to stop their operation in Russia, because we understand that, again, the sooner Russian economy will have deficits, the sooner the war could be stopped. But this is, again, this will not have an immediate effect. So we're still talking about like weeks, in some cases even months to come. And this is also organizational level. So not only for businesses, but also for civil society organizations, where we see the potential for cooperation to call a spade in a way that needs to be done. Some of the think tanks probably need to revise where their sponsorship or donorship came from. Some of the think tanks might be willing to drop names of, let's say, Russian oligarchs who were donating big sums of money, and therefore also like having certain expectations regarding the analysis and things like that. But also media. We're also talking about, those best practices or good examples where Sputnik, let's say, or Zvezda or Russia Today were disconnected and not allowed to broadcast in particular countries. But this is unfortunately still not the case everywhere. So the work goes on, and here again we could join forces. And the third level, this is more individual level. At individual level, this is contribution of each and every citizen. Of course, there is a possibility to post a temporary protection seeker. Of course, there is a possibility to donate humanitarian aid and to also kind of coordinate how to deliver it, because now it's not even a question of lack of humanitarian assistance, but rather safe ways to deliver. So this is all very, let's say, time-consuming and difficult coordination and logistical processes, which we, however, taken on board because we realized that time is short, time is running up, and some people might not see tomorrow if we do not provide assistance now. So these are key messages that I wanted to deliver right at the moment. I apologize that I didn't hear, I was not present during your first session, so I'm a little bit out of the context, but I would be honored to address the questions that have to do more with the precise topic of today's workshop. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maryna. Thanks for your personal insight and also for the active wartime work. And as you rightly say, this is an immediate must, but certainly not the only work that expat civil society organizations and media will need to be putting in the days, weeks, and months to come for rebuilding Ukraine and in bringing it as close to Europe as possible. I wanted to first, while launching our question and answer and discussion part of this session, I wanted to come back to the very first point you raised, where you invited everyone to shift the focus back to Ukraine, the 38 million Ukrainians that are still there. And of course, this requires having information about the situation on the ground, requires active media work, active reporting in good quality and real time from the ground. And we have seen that media is functioning in very dangerous circumstances. We have heard of reporters wounded or even killed. We have not heard as much as what are the conditions in which also Ukrainian journalists and media outlets are currently working on the ground. Could you perhaps help us also to understand how not to overlook the needs of Ukrainian media in this context, and how to support quality and real-time reporting from the ground.
Thank you for this question. It's a very, very pertinent and difficult one for multiple reasons. Regarding Ukrainian media, I could tell you the following, that separate channels have ceased their normal operation, and now they collaborate to provide 24 hours live stream. So basically, these are journalists from different regions, from different studios that just take turns, are on rotation to kind of provide live coverage throughout Ukraine from different oblasts, but also like on different topics. Like what Ukrainian army is doing, how to, for instance, psychologically protect yourself, or how to safely escape, like how to safely hide, and so on and so forth. So Ukrainian media is working like under worst scenario, and gives this most like pertinent information that can also help save lives. Let's put it this way. As for international media, situation is not less dramatic for the following reasons. There were already a few cases, a few instances where international journalists were either kidnapped or killed or injured. And of course, after these news, I believe most of the international outlets are withdrawing their personnel. I mean, I do not have exact, names or numbers, but this would be like a very reasonable step to protect, let's say, journalists, especially who are not trained to work in war times, but who are just civilian journalists. So that's why it's true that there is now a lack of international coverage from the ground. And most of the coverage that Ukraine gets is from the studios in Brussels, in Paris, and elsewhere, where just experts are trying to kind of explain the situation, which is creating a perverted picture sometimes. So the way out that we see, we've here created, we keep on creating a list of eyewitnesses and a list of, let's say, voices from Ukraine. So we do have people here in Brussels who made it here and who are fluent English speakers who are ready to speak on the camera and to explain what it was like within the last 3 weeks, how it felt to be under bombardments, under shellings, and hearing sirens all the time and going into the basements, what it was to make their ways to the border and then, crossing the border, but not in a sense, again, like how hard or difficult it was, but like what was the security condition, what were the circumstances under which they were escaping. So this is one of the lists that we are keeping and making available to the media. And the other list is people who still remain in Ukraine and who could be got in touch with, and who could also kind of explain what they experience on the ground. These are not journalists. These are mostly civic activists who are, again, hiding. The problem with them is that you cannot rely on live streaming, because if they hear the siren, so the security protocol is to go to the basement, and we never know again when and what happens, so we just might lose connection. This is why with these type of people, we prefer to establish, let's say, a framework where we make a recording and then make it available publicly. But the lag could be 1 or 2 hours, because, as I said, if this is live, there is no guarantee they would be, I apologize, online. So this is a bit the context in which we now find ourselves in.
Thank you very much. I also have received a question from our audience So what would be the best ways to connect with civil society organizations in Ukraine for providing support to the people in Ukraine? Could you perhaps quickly react, Olena, to this?
Yes, I would like to react on this issue, but also I would, yes, you hear me, right? But also I would like to bring back our discussion at the policy level, because it's without prior agreements, we both from Ukraine, we actually speak about the key message here. Shift the focus to the main reason, as I put it, or as Maryna put it, to focus on Ukrainians inside of Ukraine. But actually we are speaking about the same thing. We need to work together to eliminate the cause. And this can be done on the policy level, on the level of civil society, on the level of individuals. And I would like to highlight it as many times as possible. And we, as representative of different Ukrainian organizations here, actually working at the same with the main message: help us to resist, help us to stop the war. And coming back on the policy level here, and actually indirectly to answer this, or directly to answer this question of how to involve with the civil society. And Elena, to answer into your question on the media, I would put this media issue on a broader context. Actually, we are speaking not only about the reporting on what is happening, but also on the census about what is happening. And what our member organizations are doing, and these are the one of several of them. They are not, they kind of work above media. They are the ones who have been training medias in Ukraine. But now what they are doing, and that what the colleagues are telling, my colleagues, our member organizations in Ukraine, they have created kind of a platforms where, apart from all this information, huge volumes of information, they crystallize main senses, main messages, and they transform them to the Ukrainian audience inside of Ukraine, to Ukrainians outside of Ukraine. But what is more, and here I come back to my point, is that we Ukrainians are here to help you to work on a higher level, on the policy level, because at the moment, stopping the war, it is in hands of the political leaders or international leaders. They can take decisions which are absolutely necessary to stop the war. We as individuals cannot transfer military assistance to Ukraine, but our governments can. And this is what we need in order to stop the war, because Ukraine is defending itself, but Ukraine is defending all of us. So engage here, my 3 points. We are here to provide you information. Our member organization, yes, I wanted to come back. So what they do, they create like leaflets, which you can take and to transfer through your media, to transfer to everyone who would listen. And Elena, please, I'm here to share all the information which we have, which you can then transfer to your governments, to transfer to your stakeholders, to anyone. Then we are also here to engage together. We can organize events together. We can speak together to those who make decisions, to those who are important for these decisions, in order to transfer these messages, this main appeal of Ukraine to the world, to stop the war and to address the needs of Ukraine inside of the country as much as of Ukrainians outside of Ukraine. And also, we need to act together now to rebuild the Ukrainian society from when we will win this war. And these are all angles possible to help Ukrainian society right now inside of Ukraine, because our members, despite all, they continue to work. They continue to produce analysis. Other civil society organizations and NGOs, they are volunteering. And we also volunteering absolutely to help Ukraine to survive, to sustain. And so my main appeal here would be, given that this is the representatives of diaspora, which is a very particular role, right? So we are present in the country where we live, but never losing the contacts of our origin country, right? So we kind of these two steps, let's use it wisely. Let's use it as actively as possible. We are here to provide you expertise. We are here to work together to gain this win. Because gaining the win for Ukraine, it's gaining the win for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this clear message, and I want to thank also both our speakers for both the clarity but also humanity and professionalism with which you represent your country and your nation. I think it has been also important, the point that you both raised, that it's not just about reporting when we look at the work of media, but it's also about contextualizing whatever is happening in a broader analysis and real understanding of the situation, both on the ground, but also geopolitically, because these are knowledge, professionalism, and understanding will be the tools that turn us from sympathy into real decisions, and real decisions that benefit Ukraine, but that benefit us all together. So once again, I want to call upon our listeners to please do take the points raised by our Ukrainian experts and opinion leaders. Please do take these points with you as we each individually and collectively seek ways to support Ukraine. And I think I can speak for us all that when I say that we stand with Ukraine, and like Olena said, we need to act all together. Thanks again. And
can we just have a short word also? Please, thanks and appreciation. And yeah, just to confirm that either you can find our contacts on the website, but also on social media, or again, I don't know what because of GDPR rules and everything. But if you would want to be subscribed to the newsletters that we're now doing, and then to further be informed and cooperate, please do share your contacts probably with ELÍNA, and if you could just collect them and pass them on to me, we will definitely be in touch, because the work is immense and it's about really joining forces. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for speakers representing both the platform Promote Ukraine, as well as the Ukrainian think tank LIAISON office in Brussels. We will also include contacts with your organizations on the Facebook page and the website of Europeans throughout the world, so that all those that are listening could get in touch with you. Right now, I would like to conclude this session, and after a short break, we will return to a session on academic perspectives. Thank you.